Everyone, it's Ross, and we're here looking at my lettuces. I haven't eaten as much lettuce as I should have. I never really do. Really, if I were to change one thing in my diet, it would be to eat more lettuce, more salad. And my girlfriend, who is literally a salad expert, I mean, that was that was one of her titles at her job. She used to work for Sweetgrain, a company called Sweetgrain that makes salads, really high quality stuff. But I really would like to eat more salad. I grew a lot of lettuce this year in anticipation of me eating more lettuce, because you can't really eat more of something if you don't have it. So I grew it. Here it is. A lot of it bolted, okay? And I think that was a little bit of the downfall of the lettuce for me this year. So, you know, there's a huge gap right here. There's also sort of a little bit less of a, abundance in this row. A lot of the arugula that I planted, which I love arugula, it's the best. I also love spinach, and that stuff both bolted in no time at all. Wasn't able to get any harvest whatsoever as a spring crop here. So we're gonna have to plant that stuff again and hope that we get it in the fall. But this is, I guess, a video to, help you guys, I guess, in the right direction. If you live in my area, we can kind of talk about what hasn't bolted and what has, so that maybe you can start growing those types of lettuces, because I'm going to start switching to these kinds of types. So we have romaine here, which bolted. I just harvested it. We're going to make some salad a little bit later today. I took a bite out of this. Take another bite. It's not bad raw. In fact, this romaine, whatever it is, I need to figure out what type of romaine this is, what the variety is. It bolted, but it's not very bitter, which is nice. Something like this over here, which I don't know the name of. I could look up the name of this as well, but this is very, very bitter. And not a huge fan of this lettuce. Even from day one, very shortly after I planted it, it was extremely bitter. It's not really edible, guys. I know the bolting process makes things more bitter, but this thing just did not do well in one little bit here in this climate. So we're probably not going to be growing lettuce like this again. Like I said, the romaine did well, the arugula did not, and the spinach did not. What we have down here, I really tried to get some interesting Japanese styled lettuce, because or even just brassicas, because they are breeding them for bolt resistance and heat resistance. So this is Mizuna, and Mizuna seems to be a very slow grower. Has an interesting texture to it, has a nice brassica taste, so it tastes like broccoli. It's not bad, and it doesn't seem to bolt. It seems to be quite resistant to the heat. So we're probably going to grow this again. Mizuna seems to do really well. This right here is the cut and come again lettuce that's really popular with market gardeners, and you can see it doesn't look all that great, but let me harvest some here. Take a bite. Very bitter. So what you can do with this is chop it off at the base, and it'll come back time and time again. So you can have repeated harvests. Here's more Mizuna here. But I don't think, because it's so bitter, there's definitely some varying opinions on why lettuce gets bitter, but I think a big reason why is probably the heat. Maybe the sunlight is some of, some people's opinions that they give. Where we're at right now, the sun sets over there, so this whole fence here and this whole area, this whole bed, gets just beaten on by the afternoon sun. So I had a whole bunch of radishes over here that we pulled. They all bolted. A lot of things just don't do well here, I think, because the afternoon sun is like the warmest part of the day. So we're trying to grow things that like the cooler weather, in a pretty warm location. These things don't get full sun, but they do get a lot of heat, it seems like. So maybe not the best spot for them, but this is what I've designated here to grow this stuff in. And it's kind of really all I have to work with. The other reason why things get bitter is water. So I don't irrigate this at all. In fact, all I do is mulch, and every single plant you can see in my yard has mulch on it. Every single one. It's just the facts of life here in my garden, and it really works well with keeping things alive and healthy, and keeping the water level appropriate, and preventing weeds, even though we have tons of weeds in this bed. This is a new hugelkultur bed that we took out of the compost pile. So there's lots of weed seeds, I'm sure, that were in the compost pile that never actually composted, by the way. So the point I'm trying to make here is that even though we have wood chips down, there's lots of water here. This is it is really constantly wet. We get lots of rain. But I think to get really not bitter lettuce, you have to keep that stuff wet at all times. Otherwise, I guess there's a chemical in the lettuce that just triggers that bitterness, kind of like a tea plant. So tea has that, can be bitter or it can be sweet. So if you grow tea leaves and you grow it in partial shade, that's kind of how they get matcha, is that they put a shade cover over it. The sunlight activates a chemical within the tea leaves that makes it more bitter. So I'm growing my tea actually in a shadier spot so that I don't have to cover it. But yeah, I mean, I guess maybe it's the sun, maybe it's the heat, maybe it is the water. I don't know. Let me know, guys, what you think that reason is, because as it stands right now, if I have to water this, I'm not gonna do it. It's just not gonna happen. I hooked up irrigation here. I could easily flick a switch. It would take me a little bit to make sure the irrigation was, you know, appropriately working and not doing things I didn't want it to do. But I don't want to have to do that because I think it's unnecessary. With wood chips, you just don't need water. I don't want to have to be watering this stuff. I don't want to have to put it on a timer. I don't want to have to worry about it. So if anyone has any reason, you know, a legitimate reason, you guys are like an expert at growing lettuce, let me know what the reason is. Is it heat, is it light, or is it water? And then I guess to wrap this up, whatever this stuff is here, I'm blanking on the name. This looks like an Amish tongue type lettuce. A deer tongue. This stuff is somewhat bitter, and it's approaching inedible. I'm not a huge fan of this lettuce, whatever it is. I think I grew it last year, never really liked it, but I had seed, so I planted it. So I'm probably not going to grow that again. I do like kales. You can saute them up, and they're very reliable here. I should have planted more kale, but I trialed so many different things this year that I didn't really have time or the desire to try kale again. You can harvest this off, even though this is going to seed. We're trying to propagate this stuff here, let it go to seed, and then we can do whatever we want with it by planting more seed. Hopefully soon that these seed heads, you know, they're kind of drying up, I guess, that they'll actually propagate themselves down below. But the kale is really good. I mean, I like to cook it though. You can't really eat this stuff raw. Down here though is Swiss chard, and this stuff didn't grow very well for whatever reason, but it's still very pleasant to eat. It doesn't really get bitter. When it's at a smaller stage, to me it tastes like shrimp. It tastes quite good. I love Swiss chard. We also have some kind of Japanese lettuce or Japanese trial spinach, or lettuce that I tried here. It didn't grow very well. That one had lots of promise, and the same thing with this. I'm blanking on the name, guys. If anyone knows what this is off the top of your head, it may be tatsui or Tokyo Bacana. I'm not sure. It tastes a lot like broccoli. It also tastes like spinach. This is more like a spinach, a Japanese spinach. It's just now starting to get a little bitter on some of these leaves, but this to me is a winner. So we're probably gonna grow that again. I'll figure out what that is and make sure I get seed of it again. But anyway, guys, that was the lettuce bed, I guess. That was the update. Not very happy with this. It looks green, it looks abundant, but to be honest with you, I didn't eat enough lettuce. I didn't eat enough greens. Kind of, this was a little bit of an experiment, and that was it. You know, I feel a bit like I've wasted a little bit of time. I've wasted money. I really should be eating more lettuce, so I'm gonna try my best. Definitely gonna eat this romaine here that I picked. Try to eat as much of this as I can, but for most of it, it's now bitter. It's not very pleasant to eat. So we're probably gonna stick to the Swiss chard in the future. We're gonna stick to some kale. We're gonna stick to the Mizuna here, and this romaine. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this little one. Yeah, I know. Anyway, guys, I'll talk to you later. Let me know what you guys think about this whole thing. All right, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.